Hello and welcome. It's 11 o'clock. It's the 7th day of January 2022. It is 55 degrees and cloudy here in Ventura, California, and I'm drinking coffee. Warm. And it's time for this week's editorial. So the new schedule, if you haven't been following, is Monday, Wednesday, Friday news, Tuesday, Thursday reviews of some kind, and then we'll throw in the opinions and editorials and general not safe for work soapboxy stuff on Fridays. So this is an editorial, which means it is completely 100% my opinion, and I have very little facts. This is more just what I think is going to happen, and of course it regards the future of the Critical Role franchise. Knowing full well that I am not a fan of Critical Role, this might be a less than friendly commentary, but I'm going to try and remain impartial. So one of the main topics I brought up repeatedly throughout 2021 is my idea that Critical Role, Matt Mercer and company are going to make their own tabletop role-playing game / product line completely separate from D&D. They are going to, quote-unquote, cut the tether and become their own individual gaming company. Many people disagree with me on that. Some people agree with me. As the year progressed and we got closer and closer to today, more and more people are beginning to agree with me that it's not a matter of if Critical Role does this, it's really a matter of when. So with the 2024 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons coming up, and considering how important Critical Role has been to 5th edition, let's face it, 5th edition pretty much wouldn't be as popular as it is without Critical Role. The question on the table is, what are Mercer and company going to do with the Critical Role license? And it is my belief, it is my idea, and I could be wrong, that they are going to break free of Hasbro and make their own product line. The writing is already on the table. They've already taken all the steps. It's really the only logical choice. Now, again, this is completely opinion. I don't have any idea what Mercer and Marisha and Travis and those guys have planned. But based upon my understanding of how the industry works, how merchandising works, how control of your creative content works, it makes sense. And you can see that there are evidence to lead me to this conclusion. Number one, they have created their own publishing company, completely separate from Wizards of the Coast and anything else. They are now publishing stuff by themselves under their Critical Role publishing thing. They've made a board game, which didn't do so well. They've made a role-playing game that didn't do so well. And they've got several other titles that are coming down the pike. So they are already in the position to produce their own product line. Number two, they have their own studio. They have their own production company. They are starting to separate themselves from the Wizards of the Coast production line. You see that. When was the last time you saw Mercer at any official Wizards of the Coast live production or mentioned? He hasn't been in a while. Instead, they've got their own production company, they've got their own studio, they've got their own crew, they're making Critical Role a show, and even though they're still sponsored by D&D Beyond, you can see the slow withdrawal from connections from D&D. I've also said that I believe by 2025 we will see a tabletop role-playing game, direct cable type thing, kind of like Peacock or Hulu, where all these live action Let's Plays that we've been seeing increase will have one single place to go. And it's probably going to be sponsored by them or in conjuration with their relationship with Amazon. Notice that they put the newest Taldorei Beyond Reborn product. Nowhere on this does it say 5th edition or Dungeons & Dragons. It says Matthew Mercer, Hannah Rose, and James L. James J. Hackett, Haeck. James J. I don't know what that is. I can't really read it. It has the Critical Role symbol. It has the Talsim Publishing symbol. It has Taldorei Reborn. Nowhere in there does it say 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And this is not being produced by Wizards of the Coast. It's being produced by them. So why does it make sense for them to break free of Wizards of the Coast and go independent? Money. Basically, money and creative control. Right now, Wizards of the Coast still has some control over the Critical Role line. They have a new product coming out this year that Mercer had some work with, and he has, said good things about. And it generally was, if you're familiar with what a 3-pitcher deal was, he basically had a 3-pitcher deal with Wizards of the Coast. He made 3 things that were Critical Role adjacent, and now he is completely free to either make new stuff for Wizards of the Coast or continue to make Critical Role stuff through his own publishing company. If he makes stuff through his own publishing company, he has complete creative control of the IP. Wizards of the Coast cannot tell him what he can and cannot do. Wizards of the Coast could have done the complete Taldorei Reborn. He would have much greater access to publishing and much greater access to big box retail if he did Taldorei Reborn through Wizards of the Coast Publishing, but he didn't. They chose to do it their own because that gives them complete creative control of the IP. And the reason why I believe that they're going to make their own Critical Role tabletop role-playing game is because it gives them complete control, and 100% of the profit goes to them. They do not have to share anything with Wizards of the Coast. None of their money that they make on the show will have to go. And if they start their own digital branding company, they won't have to associate with D&D Beyond. They'll have complete control. It just makes sense from a financial point of view, from the way the industry works. And Mercer's been around long enough in the industry to know how Hollywood works, to know how SAG works, to know about writer strikes and stuff like that. And that the goal is complete creative control of your product line and merchandising of your product line. That's when you know you've made it. When we have Critical Role the action figures, you've made it. When you have Critical Role the flamethrower, the kids love this one. You've made it. As long as they're connected to Wizards of the Coast and D&D Beyond and other companies, they don't have complete control over the IP. There's always somebody else with their fingers in it. But if they break free, end their association, and make their own tabletop role-playing game, 100% of the money that game makes goes into their pockets. 100% of any merchandising that comes from the Critical Role, Taldorei Reborn, whatever they're going to call it, D&D Clone, Pathfinders 3.0, is going to go to them. Everything they do, if they break free, is theirs. So it just makes perfect sense. And if you've watched the progression of Critical Role from day one to today, you can see that they're really not playing Dungeons & Dragons as written. They're playing Mercer D20. It's D&D basically in name only. Some of the classes are similar to D&D classes, but almost everything in the 3rd season is pretty much his take on things. There's very little core rulebook in the 3rd thing. And you're seeing them do a lot more independent stuff. You're seeing them do a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with D&D. You're seeing them not show up at D&D 5e Wizards of the Coast branded productions. Now again, I could be completely and utterly wrong. I have nothing to go on other than just my general understanding of how these things works, how the industry works. This is what I do. If Critical Role was mine, obviously I would self-publish, so I could have complete 100% creative control and complete 100% access to all the funds that I don't have to share with anybody else. Every time I use the D&D name, I have to give them a share. If I have no connection with 5e, if I have my own system that has nothing to do with them, if I publish it myself, everything I make is mine. And if I make the Critical Role Jester action figure, Jester body pillow, you know it's out there. That's 100% my money. So why do I keep saying that? It makes sense. It makes sense for them. And I think that Mercer and Marissa and Travis and Talzin and all those guys are smart enough and aware enough of how the industry works that they would want complete creative control. They would want to be able to have the ability to take Critical Role any direction they want, whether it be through Amazon or their own toys or books or video games or music or costumes or the Critical Role, the flamethrower. They would want 100% creative control. That's the dream. That is the goal of any production in Hollywood. You want your name on it. You don't want to share your name with it. You want complete creative control, and you want the merchandising rights. Merchandising, where the real money comes in. So that's my editorial, and that's why I think this is what they're going to do. Again, I could be wrong. They could stay loyal, and they could just be the big flag wavers for whatever it is Wizards of the Coast is going to do in 2024 for the 50th edition. They could. I could be wrong. I mean, yeah, in some ways that kind of makes sense, sort of, but really, no, it doesn't. Really, it makes the most sense if I'm Matt Mercer to become independent of Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, and make my own game and give myself complete creative control of the IP. If you agree with me, let me know. If you don't agree with me, let me know. If you want to see more stuff like this, let me know. If you have any interest in purchasing any of the product Matt Mercer has made, head on down to your friendly local game store, that's This Games and Anime here in Ventura, and ask them to purchase it for you. Till next time, I am your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, and general internet nonsense that is the OGGM. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Now get off my land, you damn Taldorei, whatever you are, to have carrot.